skull, which could then ultimately be, this is the first time that skull's been lifted from the substrate since it rolled down the slope or separated from the skeleton of the person who has died or sacrificed in this cenote. So anyway, this is another approach that we're using for, in this case, archaeological study in the ocean environment. And really quite remarkable now what the technology is allowing us to do. Next slide, please. So, you know, the fact is that we're in an opportunity here at National Geographic where we have the tools to get people who care about the ocean. And we created this story for the World Bank in the recent Ocean Symposium. And I'd like you to listen to it. It represents our international community working on these issues.
Sama halnya anak kita, cucu kita, sama saja.
The ocean gives us more than half of the oxygen we breathe. It regulates the climate, and it gives us all this seafood and recreational opportunities.
The ocean is an enormous bloom opportunity, able to provide us with life, with leisure, with commerce, with industry, all of the fundamental underpinnings for a sustainable economy.
Healthy ocean translates into economic growth and development.
Necesitamos dirigir nuestra mirada hacia los océanos. Océanos saludables garantizan a su vez riqueza y prosperidad.
We have changed the ocean. We've lost 90% of the big fish in the sea. We've seen a decline and loss of about half the coral reefs and growth of dead zones.
Sorry.
We're also seeing effects on all kinds of marine species. We have to have a healthy ocean. It provides so much to us that we just take for granted.
Sin arrecife vivo no hay playas. Sin arrecife vivo no hay pesca. No hay atractivos visuales que traen a gente a bucear, a snorkelear, a ver aves.
We need those oceans to be healthy if we're going to continue to feed what is a rapidly growing population.
What is happening to us? What is happening to me as an individual? When you start wondering that way, then the bigger question that comes in, what is happening to my future?
The ocean is part of our life. It's fundamental for us. If we don't protect that in the long term, we die.
12% of the land is protected in national parks or reserves. In the ocean, less than 2% is protected.
Sabemos que en el futuro nos va a rendir no lo que vamos a ganar, a lo mejor el doble de lo que debemos de ganar si nosotros vamos a pescar en este momento. Entonces, ese es el valor que nosotros le estamos dando a los recursos pesqueros.
This is one area of investment where the returns are so easy to see.
To invest because no one has more at stake than companies. Without the resource, there's no company. So it's in the company's best interest to invest for the future.
Tubuh kita memang sudah hancur, pasti kita juga hancur. Karena kekayaan atau keindahan kesejahteraan kita itu berdasarkan dalam laut.
There's going to be a great opportunity for people to make a difference. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, feed people.
put it up on the Bibian or come out, and then you're going to get the Bibian. I'm not sure you will.
If we look after the ocean will look after us.
The world needs a new philosophy. Not a philosophy of competition, but a philosophy of cooperation. We survive or we perish together. No one group can survive alone.
So that was that brings home the message of how we need to cooperate. National Geographic is ready to do so. I've invested my life in turning this organization to be the best partner for the conservation industry that it can be. And we're ready to help. We find that Google is one of our best partners in this regard, and it's a delight to have been here just to share some of this with you. Thank you. How are we doing for time, Jennifer?
All right, our last speaker before the coffee break is Dr. Sylvia Earle, and we're really excited that she was able to join us in this session today, and she's been a huge hero and mentor of mine. Our partnership with Sylvia has lasted over 4 years, and she's helped us make all the connections that have brought us to work with National Geographic, Archive, IUCN, really hundreds of people, actually. And partners. And so we are greatly indebted and inspired by her and her words. And so without further ado, I'm going to ask her to please come and share a few of her words on ocean storytelling. Thank you, Sylvia.
I'd love to have a picture of the Earth on the screen. Can we do that? Just because. I dream sometimes of what it would be like to bring into the present time some of the scientists who were aboard the first Challenger expedition, who explored the ocean from 1872 to 1876. And just be here today in this room and look at the ocean through the eyes of anybody, 10-year-old kids who can carry in their pockets the distillation of what's been discovered about the ocean since that first global expedition to explore the depths of this planet. Just imagine what we did not know prior to the 20th century, what we didn't know even in the middle of the 20th century. When Rachel Carson wrote The Sea Around Us in 1951, 10 years before she wrote Silent Spring, even she, thought that the ocean was too big to fail. We had policies that were put in place during that era. It's policies that continue right up to the present time that were based on that belief. The ocean is so vast, so resilient. There isn't much that puny humans can do to alter the nature of the blue part of the planet, alter the nature of nature. But now we know. And that's the great thing about being here early in the 21st century, to be a part of this revolutionary time. What have we learned since the middle of the 20th century? Well, from the one thing we've learned, that we have the capacity to draw down the life in the sea to levels that are precarious in terms of affecting this, the only home will send ambassadors someday to Mars, meet people, astronauts, dream of going. I would love to go to the red planet, but it's not going to be a safe haven for 7 billion people or even 1 billion, about the number of people who were around 200 years ago. I've watched world population more than triple in my lifetime. I've watched the decline of the populations of fish in the sea, of trees on the land, of birds in the sky. Our power to alter the nature of life on Earth is enormous. We didn't know about the magnitude of that power to change the ocean. When I was a child, when Rachel Carson wrote her book, certainly even now, there are some who think it's okay to take large-scale, industrial-scale machinery out into the sea to extract, well, the goal is on the order of 100 million tons of wild creatures out of the ocean, treating them largely as objects, as pounds of meat, the way we used to treat whales, until we learned there are other values that may transcend the value of wildlife as pounds of meat, barrels of oil. This is the time when the power of knowing could not be more important. It's the best hope we have. Being able to use amazing tools like this, Google Earth, embedded with the knowledge that National Geographic, the scientists from around the world, the poets, that anyone who has a thought has the power to communicate those thoughts with us in the context of that image, of that blue speck of the universe. So, I refer to this sometimes, I think of this as the sweet spot in history. Engineers think of the sweet spot as when you're working with a fancy machine with gears that mesh or whatever it is. You're working, it's not quite right. And finally you hit that spot, the sweet spot, when everything comes together. You can go too far and then it doesn't work anymore, but there's that moment when everything comes together. This is that time. We could not know what we now know. Even 10 years ago, we were not empowered with the ocean and Google Earth. And this is a phenomenon that has come upon us at just the right point in time. Because never again will we have a chance as good as the opportunity that we have now, right now, but not much longer, to take action, to turn things around. So instead of every year getting the bad news about how there are fewer and fewer sharks, fewer and fewer cod, how the pressures are on Antarctica, how the ice in polar seas is diminishing, we have the once and perhaps never more opportunity to act on this amazing ability to access knowledge of all preceding human history in ways that were heretofore inconceivable. It's only now that we have this opportunity. And to visualize it, we are visual creatures. And to be able to see and show, here it is, this is it. To show the connections, the sands of Africa blowing across the ocean, winding up in the Florida Keys, changing the nature of that system, and continuing on to darken the snows of Colorado and the Arctic ice with the dust that comes across through the sky, showing how the land affects the ocean affects the land, and the sky, and the thin envelope of atmosphere above, how it all ties together. And if you haven't yet read E.O. Wilson's latest contribution to knowledge, I urge that you look at the social conquest of Earth, how human beings over the last 11,000 years, but look, going back to the earliest years, how it's our capacity, that rare capacity of creatures. Not many have ever organized societies. None have organized societies with the same capacity that humans have to be able to transmit through the ages what they learn. and to benefit from that knowledge. Here we are at this turning point in history, armed with access to knowledge about how we have changed the planet in ways that threaten our very survival. There are a lot of smart, intelligent creatures on Earth. John Francis describes some of them, some of his favorite critters, the marine mammals, big brains, intelligent. I have a household with cats and dogs, horses. Smart, intelligent, but they don't do what humans can do. Draw on knowledge of all preceding humankind. And now, through communication, I mean, National Geographic has been about this business since 1888 of communicating knowledge and trying to entertain people while they're informing people, engaging people in the joy of discovery. Now, with Google Earth, and other forms of communication that are unprecedented, we have no excuse anymore for doing some of the same dumb things that have gotten us into the fix that we now face. How can we continue to allow sharks to be depleted when we know that here's the trend, here's where they were when Rachel Carson wrote her book, mid-1900s, the middle part of the 20th century, that is, 1951. Here's where they were, here's where they are today, 90% gone. Just follow that trend. Where will they be in another 50 years if we continue doing what we're doing? Follow the trend with carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We can measure it, we can demonstrate it, we can learn from that and change the way we behave. Other creatures may know that the planet isn't the same as when they were young. I met a bird, an albatross, a lace-on albatross, earlier this year, in a place that magically has been given our sanction, our protection, out in the northwest Hawaiian Islands. Midway Island, land and sea are now protected. There it is, within that lovely strip across the ocean, that we've decided, oh, we're going to protect that. Who are we to decide? Well, the fact is we are the ones to decide, because we're the force of nature now that can determine whether things live or die. And that includes us. Will we live, or will we not be able to prosper on this little blue speck going forward? It's based on what we know and then what we do with that knowledge. So, I sat with this lace-on albatross, who in turn was sitting on a little oval of hope, her hope, that there would be another generation of lace-on albatrosses on the way. She is known to be 61 years old because somewhere along the way, her little leg was banded with a number that has enabled us to track her age. Now, there are probably a lot of albatrosses out there of equal age or even older, but we know she's at least 61. Imagine what she has seen while she flies over the vast Pacific Ocean to pick up what she requires, the squid, the small fish, the things that's all that she has as a choice about what to eat. We have lots of choices. We don't have to eat squid. We don't have to eat those little things that we now, for the first time in history, can access. But we are taking squid. We are taking the little fish. We're taking the very life out of the ocean that keeps us alive, not as just rocks and water, but a living system that generates oxygen, that takes up carbon, that drives the chemistry of the planet, about which you will hear more from Dan shortly. You know, you take the fish away, you take away those processing plants, the krill, that, you know, they change the chemistry. All creatures change the chemistry of the world around them. In the ocean, it's the same. We have chosen to take them out of the ocean and put them somewhere else, altering the nature of the sea. That albatross has a name, Wisdom. Wisdom, beautiful bird, may know that the world has changed in her time. Seeing traffic increase across the ocean, new smells, new sounds, new things that float in the ocean, the plastics that she and other albatrosses scoop up and stuff thinking they're feeding their youngsters. Instead, they're feeding them a fatal meal in some cases. She may notice those changes, but she cannot know what we know. She can't know why the changes have taken place, and she can't know what to do about it. We're the only ones. We're the only ones who know why the world is changing. We're the only ones with the power to do something about it. This is the time. 50 years ago, even 20 years ago, it was too soon. We could not communicate the way we can communicate now. 50 years, even 20 years from now, it may be too late to take action, surely to take action that we have the power to take right now. So, I'm thrilled to be here in Jeju at this IUCN conference where people from all over the world are gathering to share what they know. And I hope to use the power, to use this sweet spot in time to make the world a better place. Thanks.